Hello and welcome to a video lecture by Brenda Ambrize. Brenda Ambrize began her career as an actor in the Texas market, but became intrigued with all the behind-the-scene action and eventually moved on to directing, producing, and casting in a wide range of markets inside and outside the Lone Star State. Her full-service casting and production company, Ambrize Production Services, provides production and casting services for film, commercials, print, and industrials. Brenda is known for such projects as The Bookie, From Mexico with Love, and Finding Home, and commercials with clients ranging from McDonald's, Nike, Verizon, Disney, Apple, and Kia to her favorite sports team, the San Antonio Spurs. Here now is Brenda Ambrize.
Well, it's an interesting story in how I got into the business. I actually have a theater and dance background, and I was directing a play, and a guy came in to audition, and it turned out that he was a creative at a production company. And he actually got cast in the lead role. And after we got to know one another, he said, "Boy, you'd be good for some projects that we have. You should check it out." And that's really how he introduced me to the gentleman over at Ash Bowie. And through them is how I met you. And I started to just enlarge my networking, I guess. And at the time I was still working full time, but I would have opportunities to do jobs after school on the weekends. And I actually got started wrangling talent. They said, "Well, you work with youth, so come on in," when they would have a stage full of kids, or when they had little things that they needed choreographed. I mean, it was like simple things like that they thought, "You already work with kids, you're good with them, so come on and help wrangle." And so I actually kind of started off kind of coordinating talent, and helping manage that way. And through that is how it just evolved. I assisted somebody with the casting, and then, as fate has it, as they say, how it happens, he ended up moving to Dallas. And at that time, the company Ash Bowie liked to do their own internal casting. And I just stepped right in and I never looked back. So it was actually baptism by fire, because I learned on the job. But I enjoyed people. I was already teaching acting. And so it was my way to still be a director as a casting person. Well, I actually think that's an interesting question, because there really isn't a college course or any kind of like, come be a casting director. I think the best way anyone who's interested in the casting profession, who thinks they may have a good eye for, discovering talent, or may enjoy working, like I said earlier, I really love taking the script that I'm given. And now that I have, my clients have known me for so many years, I don't, it used to be that I would get a call from the director and they would say, "Okay, this is what we want you to do, and this is what we want to see." And now they've known me so long, they're like, "Brenda just knows what we need." And so I love going in and being able to take a script and dissect it and determine what I'm going to have talent do when they come in. And so, I remember I had even a director saying, "Well, gosh, Brent, I should just stay home and let you do it." And I think he was being just a little sarcastic too. But it was one of those things where I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed the process of breaking it down and seeing people come in. And I think that first and foremost, if you want to get into casting, you have to really like people. I think, myself personally, I think that's, if you enjoy what you do, if you are willing to work with people and through all their little all their little particularities. I think because actors are kind of insecure. I mean, I think at the heart of it, it's like they're showing you them. And so I think that you have to be able to, I think, be able to work with all kinds of different personalities, and you have to encourage them, and you have to help them, do their best. In my case, I think I'm a teacher at heart. So I take more time with them in the casting room. And I think that's because I genuinely like people. I genuinely want them to do well. I want to put them position to succeed. And believe me, I started in this business as an actor. I had two really horrible like casting directors that, they were like the old, cigarette in their mouth and, they could tell all about you in 13 seconds. That's like, I had those experiences as an actor, and I didn't want to be that way. I wanted to be someone that they could come in and it was a good, positive experience. I'm teaching them along the way. I'm helping to bring out their best. And I think you have to genuinely like people. I think that's number one in my experience. Secondly, get to know somebody. You can offer to intern. You can offer to sit in. I had a few people that, I was like, they email everyone they knew and I might be the only one that answered. And I would say, sure, you can come sit in on one of my sessions, or you want to come help, and I'm not really someone who likes to work people for free. So they might come in once or twice to sit in, but after that, it's like, all right, if you're going to help me, I want to pay you something to come in and help. So secondly, that's how this one young lady that she was actually out in Los Angeles. She had a very thriving career for 10 to 12 years, but she said it was now time to return the favor. Her husband wanted to return home, wanted to help take over the family business. So she said she sent out something like 13 to 18 emails, and I was the only casting director that responded. And so she asked, can I come on in and can I visit? And I'm like, yeah, come on in. So she did. And she has a thriving business now. Casting, as a casting director, didn't work out for her because she lives in a very small city, but as a agent, she's like fantastic. And so it was one of those things where I think the teaching came out, but like she went after it. She made the phone call. She was after people, give me a chance, let me come in and sit down. And so I think that's another trait you have is you have to, like, if this is what you want to do, just keep asking, keep emailing, keep calling, and somebody will finally say, hey, you know what, I've got a session this week, come in and sit down, and during lunch we can chat for a few minutes. I did that. I don't know that everyone will do that, but there at one point you need help, and if there's people out there who are enthusiastic about it, you want to bring those people in. And then I think those are probably the best ways, is that you get connected with somebody who's already doing it. In other areas like Los Angeles, New York, the bigger markets, they actually have, huge offices, and they're always looking for people to come in, and you start off way at the bottom, but you can work your way up if you're good. And other people who have started to cast actually started casting small indie films. They started casting friends projects. Started doing things that would allow their name to get out there. And then it really, at the end of the day, sometimes just comes down to who you know. An art director knows you and says, hey, that person has a good eye, bring them in. Or, somebody says, I have a friend of a friend. So a lot of things in this business is referral. It's other people getting to know you. So I think sometimes you just have to get out and do it. And these days, I've never met so many talent. I did a couple of workshops this past summer, and I took a few minutes just to ask talent what they were doing. And I've never seen so many people who have their own YouTube channels. They have their own YouTube web series. They're producing and acting in their own projects. And so it's an exciting time to be able to just, expand and do what you like on your own. The acting sites, for instance, there are several actor profile websites that you can be a part of. In LA, the biggest one was Breakdown Services. They actually sort of, at this time, they have the market on like the sitcoms, the episodics, that's how they really came about, and then segueing over into commercials. And so it's a great thing because, a studio might say, Fox, okay, we're only going to use Breakdown. And so so they have different companies. There's Backstage, there's casting networks, there's all kinds of actor sites. In my neck of the woods here in Texas, and in a great majority of the country, you're on Breakdown or you're on casting networks. And in LA, it's LA Casting. So there's some different titles to it. But basically, you can get on as an actor and you can have a basic profile that has your picture, that has a short bio, it has your skills. You can add media to it. You can add a slate to it. And basically, your agent, that is the way that I, as a casting director, I will go on to one of these sites. And I use both Actors Access, I use Breakdown Express, and I use Casting Networks. Those are the ones that I use. Actors Access is basically an account that's created when somebody has a profile on Breakdown. And sometimes you can release, like if you have a few years ago, I was looking for bodybuilding elves for Christmas spot. And that was, that was a little different. And so I actually released it to Actors Access, which goes out to every actor in the country. And so I was getting submissions from everywhere. But basically, these different actor sites, they have geographical locations. And like in Texas, we're in South Central. So it could be Oklahoma, Texas. It can be parts of Arizona. Maybe it's Denver. So they have them separated into different geographic locations. And when you're on this site, when I post a project, I post it through one of these. And then the agents get the posting, they read the specs, and then they submit talent that fit those specs. And I have a deadline. And of course, people will be deadlines. What's a deadline? But they'll keep submitting. But once I go in and look, then I'm selecting who I think. So I'm like the first cut. I go in and I might get, for a project, I might get 1,000 people that submit, and then I've got to weed that down to maybe see 100. And so it's like going through, and you get to know people, you get to know their skills, you get to know who's who, and that's how that's the first step. It's like I'm weeding it down, and then I say, okay, these are the 90 people or so that I'm going to invite to audition. And then I will make a schedule. I will send out instructions. I'm very detailed because I like to put all the information out there. And in this breakdown, they know the usage, they know the buy, they know they know the role, they know the fitting, they know the shoot dates. You put all the information out there so that they can make sure. I mean, I've had people drive in. I'm in Austin. They've driven in from Houston only to walk in and say, oh my goodness, I just realized I'm not available on the callback day. So those are some of the things that you want to eliminate, people having to do those things. I'm like, I always tell people, you are actors. You are your first, you need to be proactive about your own career. So ask the questions. But that's basically how a casting director on these actor sites, they do have different, like for instance, casting networks, they will have a section that's just for students. And then students can actually post their own projects, but there's like a limit. Like, I don't think that like they can do their films, they can do their shorts, they can do student projects. And in order to not compete with casting directors, they have a limit as to, your project has to be under this amount. You can only be offering this amount of money, but there are free accounts that you can get on with as a student. So for instance, if there was someone in your class that wanted to cast, they could actually get on and get an account, and then they could post their project, on this website as a student project. And so, like I said, they have little triggers in there. I had a student try to post a project where she was paying the lead actor $5,000. They're like, nope, that's not a student project. You need to take that through a casting director. And so there are things like that, but that's how those sites work, and that's how we use them. And so it's always good for talent to update their resumes, update their scope of work, update pictures, because, you see one picture and you call them in and they don't look like that anymore. So you've got to make sure that, you are keeping up to date with your profiles. Actually, I'm looking at I'm looking at their headshots. I'm
Okay.
looking at their resumes. It actually is that. And again, you know them, you get to know them and you
Hmm.
know their strengths. And believe me, you've got some agents who are very good about submitting spot on. And then you've got some that just throw the kitchen sink at you. And so then you're having to weed through all of that. You know, for instance, like if you have a 40-year-old corporate type and they send in a 23-year-old, that's not going to work. And so that's where I'm able to say, they're not going to even get selected. And then many times I like to discover new people. So I will bring in people that I haven't seen before and I like their look. I like some of the work I've seen them do. Many times talent will have media. They'll have it separated. Here's comedy, here's dramatic, here's commercial, here's voiceover. And so then I'll take a look at some of that. And so I recently just cast a project for a tech company and they were looking for an actor that could play two personas, sort of like the Discover commercials where they're talking to one another and it's the same person.
Hmm.
We did something similar to that. And so I was looking for comedy backgrounds. I was looking for comedic pieces of work. And then when they entered, I did that as an EcoCast. That's an online audition. Then I had them also give me a little bit of their background as far as their comedy. Are they in classes, Second City, are they in an improv group, things like that. And so it helps me gather information on them. I have not had an in-person audition since March 1st. That was my last in-person audition. So it's all been through online. I was going to tell you this was very exciting though. Breakdown. They've been at work during COVID and they just announced their new EcoCast Live. So Thursday I was doing a big audition for a local grocery store and we used this new Eco Live for the first time. And basically I was able to schedule it and everyone got, a proprietary link. And so then they came in and I could see them on the left hand of my screen. They're all in the waiting room. And then I had my assistant, who would put them on deck. And then I was able to have my clients and my director on the other side. And so the talent could see everyone and we could see them. And that's how I did callbacks. So we did it
Wow.
all virtually. Yeah. Many times, I saw people from Dallas. I saw people from Houston. I saw people from Austin, San Antonio. And I thought, if you can't even make an audition when all you have to do is turn on your computer, then I don't even know what to say. And
Yeah.
for this case, when I was casting real families so that I don't have actors, grouped together,
Hmm.
we wanted to make sure that we only had real families. It was
Right.
nice because, we started at 3 and we finished at 11 o'clock,
Wow.
but people were home, and people were able to get their families together and everybody get together. And I did one shoot where my director was, remote. And I thought to myself, I would love it if we didn't have clients on set anymore because I think everything would go so much faster because
Yeah.
they're just looking in and they're not able to get up and go stand behind the director and start directing the scene and such. So there's been some positive silver linings to not everybody being able to be on set all the time. Everything has just been even more streamlined. I
Yeah.
was thinking when I first started this that I would just give talent agents blocks of time, send me your best people and whatever. And now I very seldom see someone that didn't fit at all because I'm selecting who comes in. Unless, like I say, they still have a picture that's 10 years old and they walk in and I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't look like that at all anymore. Casting is I think many times it is actually one of the most important jobs in your pre-pro. It's casting and its locations. And so I know in my experience, many times I'm hired before a production company is even awarded a job. In my case, for this grocery store that I work for, I'll get hired and put on hold. And I'm already working, and sometimes they're still deciding on who to award, and I'm already getting specs and I'm starting the work. And so when you think about a project, unless it's like animation or it's, no actors, it's, it's graphics and animation and VO or whatever, an actor's driving the spot, driving the creative. And so I always think that, we're first on the job. We're helping to try to bring that project to life with the specs and the direction we're given. And so for me, it's always a puzzle to begin with, and then you start to try to figure it out, and then you see it all come together. And it's like when I used to direct theater, I would tell my actors, just trust me. I give this so much thought that when I come up with my final cast, it's going to be perfect, and you're going to see how it all works together. And I love that process in casting as well, is because you may have someone that you just, like they walked in and then they just lit up, and you're going, I never thought that they could handle this. And so I think that that's what's so exciting about casting, is like you see something from the beginning and it's evolving, and then you put them in the hands of the director, and you see this, this spot come together. And then when you see it, on the screen, it's always very exciting to say, wow, I was part of that whole thing coming together. And it just makes me very happy for talent, when they just get it. And it's magic, when you see two people come in and you group people together and you group families. I always tell people my best laid plans. I work so hard at my schedules, and I try to put people that I think match up, and then somebody's late, somebody doesn't show up, somebody and so you're going, all right, I'll make it work. But that's what I think is so interesting about casting, is it's constantly changing. It's always a new project. And so, I'm just trying to put the best people that I know in front of the client and the director, so that their creative comes to life in the way they see it. Well, I did something for Cinemark a few months back, and these two people came in and they were waiting for their turn. I said, well, you're working together. And they just connected, and the chemistry was just like incredible. And they went in and they were just, like they just, like it was snap crackle pop. They were just awesome. And so when they got a call back, I made sure I put them back together again, because I thought I don't want them to lose that synergy that they had among themselves. And so many times, unless someone specifically says, Brenda, make sure you bring these people back together, I'm grouping people. I'm putting the people together. And so many times I love it when they're like, is that a real family? I said, nope, I just made, I'm looking at shapes of faces. I'm looking at eye color. I'm looking at stuff when I try to put a family together, so that it can be as realistic as we can in the business that we're in. And so I think that many times the better actor you are, or the more flexible. And I always tell actors this, you've got to be flexible, because every once in a while, somebody may not work. Like it would be like you're pulling somebody's dead weight, and it's painful, and if you're a good actor, you roll with it, you make it work. I'm very cognizant of it. I'll hold them back and let them come in with somebody else. But you'll have some people that sort of just, oh my gosh, they can't handle it. They don't know what to do with it. And so it affects their own performance. And so I'm always trying to go in and say, be prepared to work with whomever you're going to work with, because, I don't know what somebody's day has been. I don't know if somebody just had something happen, they come in, they're not in a good place, they're not feeling well, whatever, and then it'll just lay an egg. It happens every once in a while. I try to massage it, make it work, give them some things to do, and then I'll be merciful and cut it, and then I'll leave the one person back and I'll say, let's get you with somebody else. So that's what I try to do to help alleviate those situations. So the last 3 or 4 months, I've been working a lot with the tech sector. So when I first started, I'm supervising a ton of projects. And it's mostly all animation driven, graphics, motion graphics, voiceover. We do product shots. And so you're at the beginning coming from somebody who's used to live action, and it was a whole different kind of feel for it. When we're casting that voiceover actor, we're looking for somebody that, depending on what it is, because we depend on who our audience is. Are we talking to engineers? Are we talking to design engineers? Are we talking to supply chain people? Are we talking to clients who are looking for faster, internet or security starter kits? I mean, it was a whole different realm for me. The biggest part that held all of this together was the actor that we cast for voiceover, and it was the motion graphics and animation and stock footage that made these spots go. So when we are looking for a voiceover actor, because I've done so much casting, I realized that when I started working for this company, I had a completely different skill set than most of the people that they were working with. And so they would just hand over a script and it would come back with talent. I go in and this is the age I'm looking for. This is the tone I'm looking for. I'm looking for a professional person in his 40s. I want a well-seasoned voice. I want somebody who is knowledgeable, is amiable, engaging. And so I was given a lot more direction. And they're looking at it, they're like, wow, we've never thought of this. I'm like, well, you're looking for a voice to match. You want somebody to grab somebody's attention. Otherwise, you're going to fall asleep going through a 10-minute video that is so technical. Now, of course, they're engineers. They love all of those things. But I think that some of what I've done in that is to just give some real specific direction to voice. And I'm doing it in multiple languages. So I'm having to listen and I'm having to work with that because I'm working with a company that does global business. And so it's a different thing. But with voiceover casting, you can go through your typical channels of agencies that have good voiceover departments. I've been using a company called voices.com. I've cast Italian, Portuguese, Mandarin. I've cast Hebrew. I've cast Malaysian. I mean, like, it's been a myriad of different voices. And it's just an amazing process just to hear people from around the world send in voiceover auditions. And at the end of the day, it really is the voice that helps drive the product, that gives the feel that the client is looking for, because the first thing we always ask is, who's your audience? And so with voiceover casting, you are looking for, you're looking for a voice that has managed their breathing, that has managed their presentation, that's able to cut up a script and phrase it just right so you're not running out of breath. There's an art to it. And I haven't done voiceover in a long time. And I did a scratch tape for one of my spots. And Randy, I was like, you're always so critical of yourself. I'm like, wait, I want to send another one in. But it really just reinforced it's an art. Voiceover actors have just learned, it's like a musician is a singer. You practice your breathing, you practice your vocal exercises. And I was like, drinking water and trying to do my vowels and all that. And I realized, wow, you know, when I sent off the scratch tape to my editor, I'm like, okay, just know I'm just helping you out. We've got somebody in the back. We have somebody in the wings who's going to actually be the VO for this. But it you know, it actually helps you to realize and appreciate your voiceover talent when I try to do a scratch tape for this one spot. I just did something recently, well, in the fall for Verizon. And so we were doing, we did some interesting stuff. We were doing this project with Verizon and the NFL, and we shot this in LA at a studio that was just like amazing. It was a dome, and they had hundreds of cameras that captured every little movement. And so that was my first experience with, I cast 4 football players, and we flew to, you know, LA, and we went into this incredible dome that just captured everything. And it was going to be for a project, an interactive project, a virtual reality project, so that at football games you could actually go in these kiosks and you could predict the move, and was it a fumble, was it this or that. And so we were capturing every bit of action. And we did something similar to that for Verizon for an interactive project with big motion capture equipment in Dallas. And so that was also really interesting, as we are, and again, that's more your skill set than it would ever be my skill set when it comes to animation. But it was really interesting, as you know, we had our animators, we had our special effects people, we had our you know, everyone there just pinpointing what needed to be captured, and doing it in the round. And Michael Chancho in Dallas with Electric Light and Power, they have a new studio, and in their smaller studio, they have a small motion capture setup, and then they have a larger studio with a larger motion capture setup. It's pretty amazing. I get a project and I get deadlines. I'm like, okay, for instance, like this one I just did, they awarded it. Um, they awarded it, but gave me specs late. So I was supposed to get specs on Monday. I got specs on Thursday night, going into a weekend. So I posted them on Friday, didn't actually get to send anything out to the weekend. So I basically, because I had a callback on this past Thursday, I literally had maybe five days. And in those 5 days, I really had to do it all in 3, because I have to give time to send the link to the clients so they can look at whom they want to call back. So I was working around the clock on that one. I worked all through Saturday and Sunday, and then Monday I'm looking for people that I'm missing, and so it depends. You know, this is one of those jobs where we don't get the 2 weeks. You know, oh, here we have 2 weeks to do this. We're not in a rush. More times than not, we're getting it where we needed it yesterday. And so my hard thing, or the most challenging thing, is making sure that the work ethic and the go for it that I have is not always matched by the agents. You can't get anybody after 5 o'clock anymore, you know? And so you're calling them on your cell phones, and they rue the day they ever shared their cell phone with you, because I'm calling them going, hey, are you guys going to submit? And I have this deadline. But I would say, again, you learn to organize your time, you learn to manage your time, and you put the time in it. The time that you put in it is really dependent on how good a job you want to do. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I'm going to put the time in that I need. This past week, I've been very sleep deprived, you know, but I've made sure I'm working into the wee hours of the night so I can make sure that I have everything done. But it's not always that way. The company I'm working for right now, it's a corporate job. I'm just shocked, you know. It's like I had a deadline, and it's only 1:15 Mountain Time, and I'm going, we can do this. I can get this rewritten. I can get and they're like, no, it's like almost like 5. It's almost 5 o'clock, and I'm like, it's 1:15. We can get all this done. And I realized real fast that they work their little 9 to 5, and probably after 4 o'clock, I can't reach them anymore. So there's very few projects that that particular studio is working on over the weekend. So in that case, it's a small studio inside of a big tech company. And so they're only working, I mean, I was putting my 10-hour days and realized nobody else was. And so I was like, okay, I work 6 hours a day, but I can't do anything else because nobody else is working. And so I think if you work for a company like that, it would be determined on what the culture of that particular company is. But with the post or editorial houses that I'm working with, they're usually on a very tight schedule, as we are, because it's all determined. Like I'm working on a holiday spot right now. It's only, we're going to shoot at the end of the week, so it'll be mid-October, but they'll want it on the air by November 1. And because they'll want to hit the holiday season. First, they'll hit Thanksgiving, then they'll go into Christmas. And so again, they will have a short turnaround that they have to get it out. And I would say the majority of projects are that way. Unless you're working on a feature, you're working on a longer format. Everything is, your turnaround is so short. And so you are working. You may put in those long hours. I would say, that people should at least expect 10-hour days when you're in production, and maybe longer these days, because you can do so much anywhere, and I realize that more and more people are working from home, obviously because of what we're in. But before that, in this particular company, a lot of people were already working from home. And so at that point, then you have to be able to manage your time and make sure you get your deadlines out. But this is not a job for those who want a 9 to 5 job. It's one of those jobs where you work according to the schedule that you get, and then you make it happen. You've got your deadlines, and you've got, client feedback, and then it goes back, and your students should know that you were one of those clients that's a perfectionist, and you tweaked the heck out of things because you wanted it to be perfect. And so when you have clients like a Randy Red, then you are going to be working for your money. So, and that's all good. I'm like that too. I want it to be perfect. I'll say that my business is probably, if I estimated, it's probably still about 70% casting and 30% production. And so, for instance, like right now, I'm on a project where I cast and I stepped right in, and now I'm producing. And so I'm managing, but those are special situations where I do all of it, because many times people who don't know, you think, well, how can you handle both jobs? And well, I can, and so the clients that know me, the directors that I work with, or the producers that I work with that know me, and they know I can handle it, they love it, because I step right in. And actually, it's good to have me on set, because when they decide to, oh, this extra really love them, let's show them a little bit more. And I'm like, oh, you can, or they'll become an OCP. So, so it's one of those things where, they'll call me over. Hey, Brenda, can you come look at this? Can you come look at this frame, this shot? Is that person, and I'm like, no, you're going to have to turn that person around, or you're going to have to move them, or whatever. So many times I help toe the line for them on set with talent, especially with large casts. And then sometimes I'm only hired for producing. Like right now, the contract that I have, I'm supervising producer. So I'm overseeing 30 projects, and I'm assigning them. And then once I felt more comfortable with the tech sector, this last few weeks, I started producing myself, and I'm producing more of the live action shoots. And so, I'll do some in Texas, I've prepped a few for Denver. And so that's been fun to do. But I'm overseeing projects, and I'm making sure that they hit deadlines. I'm doing the actuals, and I'm making sure I'm assigning them to technical writers, and animators. We hire a lot of animators and motion graphics people, because that's what drives the tech sector, is putting all the information out and showing off the product. And so I still dabble in both. You know, some years it's more of one than the other, but casting is still the biggest part of what I do. And then the production, I love being on set. So I love when I'm able to, you know, work on projects and actually be on set. And even if I'm not doing that, I'm on set sometimes as just the set teacher. I've managed to diversify so I can stay viable in this very, very young business, you know. I was just gonna say what I've loved is I've actually been able to bring work here. So I've been Geo Media's been doing some things for us, and so it's great to be able to open it up, you know, to people that you rely on and you trust and can get the jobs that you need done. And so so that was great too, you know, because but you know, you're learning different vendors, you're learning what they do, and it's a whole different world. It just makes you appreciate all the different skill sets that different people have.